So I think it's also a good idea that you know who you're talking to. I am a Indigenous person by my father and an Italian person by my mother, so I'm of mixed race. If you think about how did I get here, how did we start an AI company, it actually started a long time ago. In 1992, we did a first startup, myself and my oldest brother, and this was a business management application. Part of this business management application had a knowledge management design. We never launched the knowledge management part. Later, that comes into play in our next company. So after that was not ultimately successful. After that, I took about a 20-year gap, went back into corporate, worked for companies like Oracle, Ericsson, ZTE. And in 2017, we had filed for some patents around taking this knowledge management architecture, which is a graph-type database, if you ever heard of graph-type databases. And then we said if we could embed some human value rating scheme on top of this thing, we could actually make an artificial intelligence, a conversational artificial intelligence out of it. So in 2017, we started to raise some funds. 2018, we started to build it. 2020, we actually delivered it. But let's step back now. Why should we take an Indigenous approach to knowledge management and AI? Well, first of all, if you know anything about Indigenous history in North America, you might understand, we're going back a few years now, you might understand that about 25,000 years ago to 10,000 years ago, something called the Bering Land Bridge appeared. So right now that's across the Arctic. And at some point in time, for about that length of time, this land bridge emerged. And for years and years and years, people thought we actually crossed from Asia to North America over the ice in the wintertime. No, we're not. We might be old, but we're not stupid. We did that during the summertime when the land bridge was available. And current belief is about 7 years ago, that's when the Canadian Indigenous people basically immigrated from Asia over to North America. Now, why are we talking about that? Well, for 17,000 years, we never had a language. There were no written languages. It was only the missionaries who came here later who actually started to show us a syllabic language, and we were able to write books and Bibles. That was a good thing to do, write a Bible in syllabics, and then you could use that to educate the Indigenous people on religion. But we've lived for that long in North America with ways of doing things, understanding basically sustainability. Everything is connected. You've heard of the circle of life. That's an Indigenous teaching forever, in all places. Realizing that everything is connected: land, people, animals, rocks. Rocks we consider to be our grandfathers. They are the oldest things on the planet. They were here since the molten lava started to form. Those are our grandfathers. They also, a real quick story, our chief, I live in a small town called Chapleau, Northern Ontario. That's where our band is. And our chief was engaged, and two other chiefs, by a mining company. And they wanted to mine gold in our traditional territory of these three bands. And our chief walked into negotiations on day one with Gold Corp. They're now since acquired. And he said, these are our grandfathers. If you want to disturb them and take the riches out of our grandfathers, two things. One is you're going to have to do it in a very good way, and you're going to have to promise that you're going to repair the land after that. And two is we're going to make a pile of money with you. So it's not going to be you taking stuff from us and our lands. It's going to be us working together. So let's talk. Anyway, but not only did we have a way of working together and sharing knowledge with stories, because we could only do that. We had no written languages, so we couldn't write books and pass those down. We had to tell stories through people. Also, and conversation making, inclusive decision making. We have a chief, the concept of a chief. The concept of a chief is really kind of a fallacy. That's more, let's say, Western thinking. These were a bunch of people. Everybody had a role. The medicine people had a role. The hunters had a role. The gatherers had a role. Everyone had a role. Everyone was part of decision making. It was an inclusive society. It wasn't a society of the chief and everybody else. It was a very much an inclusive society, and everyone was involved in decision making. Where are we going to spend the winter? Where do we go for hunting? What do we do with this tribe next to us? Are we going to trade with them? Are we going to participate with them? So these cultures, these ways of doing things, and even doing business, trading, these things are, millennia old. So I think we can take some lessons from that. So our stories, I talked about storytelling, and we had only conversation, and storytelling was our way of passing on culture. Well, storytelling and our stories became our teachings, and our teachings became the way, in a spiritual way, the way that we live our life, right? This graphic combines two of the most traditional and widely accepted teachings across North America, not just Canadian Indigenous people, North American Indigenous people. The colors are the medicine wheel. The values that you see, courage, wisdom, truth, honesty, love, respect, and humility, those are called the grandfather teachings. Each one of them has a lesson. Each one of them has a story about whatever they are. I'm not going to tell you any of these. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about the actual values. But each one has a story. Each story delivers a meaning, and it's with that meaning that we understand. That's why it's important. That's why truth is important. That's why humility is important, because the story tells you this is why this is important. So let's look at that. First of all, those are fabulous values, right? And in fact, our system is AI governed by human values. Not only these values, 150 values. That's the way our AI works. But in this case, these are 7 values that I would say I defy you to look at those values and live those values. Go into any meeting, go into any presentation, you're going to present your product or whatever it is to your prospective customer. Live by that, and you will never have a bad conversation, right? You cannot live a bad life if you respect these values. So let's talk a little bit about some of them. First of all, the value of courage. I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about what we did, which is different, very different. And to do things that are different, you have to go off the beaten path. As Midori said, we're hearing a lot here about generative AI. We're hearing a lot about large language models, of course. Well, that's what everybody is doing. We didn't do that at all. And it took a lot of courage for us to do that. This guy in this picture is my great-grandfather on my grandmother's side. This is my grandmother's father. He's leading. We were very good bushmen, and we still are very good bushmen. And he is leading a team of mining people up into the far north, literally him and the other people, pulling this boat so they can get to a lake, so they can do another portage, so they can get to another lake and try to find where they believe the minerals are. Where is the gold here? And he is leading these people. We don't necessarily think of Indigenous people as leaders. Here's an Indigenous, a mining company into the far north where we and others and them believe there may be minerals, rewards, and we're all after rewards. So it takes courage to take the path less traveled, and that's something we can all aspire to do as well. So let's talk about 3 of these other words. I kind of put these all together. Truth, honesty, and wisdom. What's that? Well, I just read an article this morning that said that generative AI, fake news, is more likely to be accepted by the reader than human-created fake news. This is both about fake news. And the report said that people are 3%, that's not very statistically meaningful, but people are 3% more likely to believe a fake news report generated by AI than it is a report which is generated by a person. Well, That's not a good use of AI, right? To generate fake AI or fake news. But the point is, truth, wisdom, and honesty, these are things that we believe are very, very important. If we're going to use a system to deliver information, this is a seminar or a talk about knowledge management, knowledge transfer, knowledge activation. I heard an interesting term. If you can, from a Gartner analyst that I talked to last week, if you can accelerate the activation of knowledge, you're doing a very great thing. Not just me, anyone, right? If you can accelerate the activation of knowledge, what does that mean? The knowledge is out there. It's in a book somewhere. It's in someone's head. It's in a subject matter expert's head. How do we get that out to a person, make it interesting enough to read, deliver it on a platform where this is now going to have some effect, it's going to be remembered, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be easily consumed, but not only that, easy to remember as well. Then we are doing good things for the enterprise trying to sell to a consumer, for whatever it is. We're doing good things. We can do good things. So really, that's what we're interested in. We're looking at how can we use our technology and how can technology generally be used to deliver things in a good way that will be activated within our people, within our employees, within our consumers, within the people that we want to assist us with the change. Maybe the change is improving the planet, improving the situation on the planet. How do we want to do that, and how can we make sure that that is going to be effectively conveyed? So we do this really with knowledge, but also with experience. And when you combine experience with knowledge, then you get true wisdom. This is why we do it. This is why it's wise to do it this way, because when you do it this way, you fail. When you do it this way, you hurt the planet. So that's what wisdom is. So I want to talk about experience now, and again, capturing knowledge. So if we look at this picture, this is a person that is literally called a knowledge keeper. You may have heard of this type of thing. We in the Western world, we might call it a subject matter expert. This person, his name is Chuck Kama.ai. He's probably built over 100 birch bark canoes. He came to our community, in fact, 3 communities, the same communities that are involved in the gold mining operation. And he instructed us with our team, youth and elders and everybody, because we didn't have any canoe builders in our community. He came and showed us how we can harvest material, birch bark, spruce gum, spruce roots, and all of the things that are used to build a canoe. And there's about 7 different trees, all coming from trees, that are used to put together a canoe. This is tacit knowledge at its highest. He's built a second canoe for us, and this summer in July, he'll build a third canoe with us. We believe that after 3 canoes, 3 times being coached by Chuck, we may be able to build one on our own. This is tacit knowledge at its finest and highest. So let's talk a little bit about respect. That's we're now down here. I bypassed love. I'll let you guys worry about love. So what does respect mean? Well, respect for developers and us and some of you means a lot. It's all about relationships. Why do we respect things? Because we have a relationship. If we abuse someone on the other side in any way, then we're not going to have a successful relationship. We're not going to get things done, whether that's an employee, whether that's a customer of ours, whether that's a shareholder of ours. If we abuse that respect, if we don't have respect for those people, if we abuse those people in any way, they're not going to be with us. In terms of development, think of respect in all of these ways. What about the user experience? What is that? Well, that's respecting that the user is there, is spending time on our platform or our application, whatever it is, on our customer's website. We're a conversational intelligence company. One of the common applications is chatbot, if you want to call it that. We don't like to call it chatbots. We like to call it conversational intelligence or virtual assistants. But there's a user, and they're consuming information from this, and we want to respect them, and we want to make sure that we deliver information in a good way, that they have the right buttons to press, that they have the right features to understand. That's all user experience. Well, what about privacy and security? Someone's going to come on there. Well, that's respect for their privacy, respect for their security. What about making sure that our technology is accessible? What about people who are handicapped in any way? They're blind. Well, let's make sure that our systems respect accessibility. We've talked a lot, and you hear a lot about data bias. We do a lot to try to remove data bias from the knowledge that is placed inside our knowledge graph. Really that's actually the responsibility of our customers. I like to say, we have no opinion. We're an AI guided by values. They're not guided by our values. They're guided by the values of the marketer who is using our platform to sell their products and services or communicate their products and services to their consumers, their prospective customers. If we're talking about an enterprise trying to deliver its ESG, environment, social, and governance goals, either to its stakeholders or to its employees, again, those are not our values. Sure, we value those things too, but we let our customer communicate those things through our platform, guided by their values applied in our system. All that to say that we want to make sure that there is no bias in this information. Well, that also becomes their responsibility. In our system, what you get out is what you put in. So we don't create knowledge, we don't create words, we are not a LLM. We have ways of using different AGI or generative technologies. We're looking at implementing some of those to assist in various processes, but not to deliver the actual words that go out on this policy, or this is our ESG strategy, or this is how we're saving the planet. Those words come from the enterprise. I did a presentation to Bank of Montreal, BMO, and one of those was, do you hire, entering into our chatbot? It was a proof of concept for them. It was a demonstration for them. And I said, what if someone came? I have a son who's gay, so please respect that. I'm not saying anything out of turn here. I said to the chatbot, our chatbot, do you hire gay people? Well, there was a VP of innovation in the audience, and from BMO, and he said, I shuddered when you asked that question. I have no idea what an LLM might say to that question. And I said, well, he said, so how do you get the answer to that? Where does that come from? I said, well, that comes from your website. We took the words off your website talking about inclusion and diversity. Those words come from your website. When your lawyer has reviewed it, when your marketing people have reviewed it, when your ESG people have reviewed it, and your CEO has reviewed it, you take those words, you put it in our knowledge base, it's locked up there. Someone asks the question, that's what they're going to get. We don't believe in creating the information that an enterprise should deliver. And of course, what about the planet? Let's not forget about the planet. If the planet doesn't exist, nobody exists. There are no shareholders to benefit. There are no companies to make money. There is no users. If we can't save the planet, I read something recently on a large LLM that is operating in the market, and they're saying they estimate, because there is no information delivered by the operator, they estimate there might be 2,000 to 10,000 GPUs running, and they gave an amount of energy that is consuming every minute that this thing is being used, it's using somewhere between, let's call it 5,000 GPUs. That's a lot of energy. These are resources. Sure, some of the energy forms are renewable, but these are precious resources that could be used for other purposes as well. If you can build an AI that consumes less energy, that's a good thing. It's a good thing for the planet. If you can build an AI that can figure out how to eat carbon dioxide, that's a good thing too. So AIs can have very good purposes, but let's make sure that we're respecting the planet. Lastly, respect for artificial intelligence. We all hear that this could be the cat's out of the bag. This could be a very bad thing. It could also be a very good thing. I saw a Google DeepMind presentation yesterday. They were talking about fantastic things that are being done by Google DeepMind. So absolutely, there are great uses for AI, but let's make sure that we try to optimize those great uses of AI and not deliver an AI that can produce better fake news, right? That should not be a goal for any of us. Okay. So I think that's really the end of my presentation. I think ultimately we want to make sure we can we can all, as designers, as developers, or as let's say IT users, we can all use AI to do various things. And I think the challenge is, how can we use it together? Because it should be about together. It should be about inclusiveness. It should be about the circle of life. How do we make sure that everything we're doing is sustainable, that we can sustain our business? Of course, if we don't have a sustainable business, then we can't continue to offer our purpose to other people. Let's make sure that we use AI for a common good. Thank you very much, and let's turn it over to questions.